Everyone, yeah, here we go. Hi,
There we are.
everybody.
Hey.
Hey, thanks for joining. Looks like we've got a few people on, Iron Eyes and Ryan, and a couple more. So, welcome. Thanks for joining, Casey and I. Happy Wednesday. It's Wednesday, right? I think
Yeah, happy
so.
Wednesday.
Yeah, happy
So,
Wednesday. So, yeah. Well, we're here tonight to talk about Mage Light and Casey's journey as a writer. So, thanks for joining me, Casey.
yeah, thank you for
Um,
having me.
yeah, it's fun that you put out a, hey, does anybody want to come on the podcast? And it's you're one of the brave souls that raise their hand, so really appreciate it.
Oh, I love podcasts. And you're fun. So, I like
I'll
hanging
take
out with
that.
you.
We were just comparing notes. I think we met at Lit RPG Con this summer. So
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Are you going back next year?
I applied to return as a panelist. We'll see if they accept me.
Yeah,
I hope so because I had so much fun.
yeah,
Met so many people, and it was such a good con, such a great vibe. So,
yeah. It
yeah.
was a blast. It's interesting because I think there's a lot more people that have applied to be panelists, as you would expect, right? But they've
Yeah.
also increased the footprints. I mean, there's more panels going on at the same time,
Yeah.
so fingers
Yeah, we'll
crossed.
see. We'll see.
Yeah, yeah,
Honestly, it wouldn't surprise me if they're like, thank you, but no thank you, because I am such a genre fluid writer that have I have game adjacent stuff, and I have a lot of sci-fi, and I have fantasy, but I really only have one book out that's actual lit RPG. So I it, as much as I hope that they accept me,
It's damn good
again.
too. So just
Oh,
just
thanks.
anyone. So yeah.
yeah.
Thank you so much.
So
Thank you
for
so
for the
much.
crowd, which is your lit RPG book?
So my lit RPG book is called Shadow Card Guardian. It is a deck builder lit RPG. It is set in John Stovall's card world universe. So
Hmm.
John Stovall wrote this incredible trilogy called Demon Card Enforcer, and I read it. And I'm good friends with John's. I'm good friends with both John and Shammy, but originally I was
Yeah,
good friends with Shammy, and then she introduced me to John and his work. And I read it, and I was like, "This is freaking amazing!" And so it was kind of funny because my progression was I read the first book on like Amazon, the ebook or whatever. And I was
mhm,
like, this is amazing. And then Shammy was like, yeah, it's on Railroad. And so I was like, oh, let me go check out Railroad. So I read like through the second book and into the third book on Railroad. And I was like, well, I cannot obviously stop now. So I
mhm.
immediately signed up for John's Patreon and read like as much as
Well,
there was. He was
binge
he
the
I
whole.
Right, yeah, he was in the middle of or like he had just started book 3, I think, on the Patreon. It wasn't on Railroad yet. Um so after I read it all, I messaged him and I was like, dude, this is so freaking good. This story like has me by the throat, right? Like I love this.
Mhm.
And he was very gracious and very, very, appreciative of my appreciation. And so then I started hinting, I was like, so, if you ever want like, I don't
Yeah.
know, like a special guest dungeon or something like that, let me know. And he was like, Casey, do you run a write in my world? And I was like, yes, I do. Thank you so much.
Thanks for picking up
Yeah,
on that
thank
really
you for
subtle
picking
hint
that
that I
hint up. Yeah.
dropped. Yeah, yeah. The manuscript
So,
that thumped on your desk the other day.
that's right. And here it
Yeah.
is.
So,
So
so is
so
Shadow
here
Card Guardian a standalone, or are you expecting to write more in this world?
So it is, as of right now, it is a standalone. I have about half of book 2 written, but that is on pause because I have contracted work that has to take precedence because so Shadow Card, I self-published Shadow Card Guardian, and I am a hybrid author. I publish traditionally with Baen Books, who's mostly known for their military science fiction, but they
Hmm.
also do fantasy, and they're a
Yeah.
traditional publisher. They've been around forever. But I also publish independently with small press. Chris Kennedy Publishing, and that's where like my space opera series and stuff is. But I wanted the hat trick, right? Like I wanted to be able to also experience self-publishing because
Hmm.
diversification of incomes and I've ADHD. I can't pick a lane, so
Yeah,
choose,
yeah. You're
choose a
like, I
reason,
don't have
right?
enough on my table to do, so let's
Let
just
me do
add
this
some.
now. This
Yeah.
looks fun. so I wrote Shadow Card Guardian, and uh, so I talked to John. I kind of came up with the idea. I pitched it to him. He loved it. It is a spin-off of of Demon Card Enforcer. and it is it it takes place. The first book of Shadow Card Guardian takes place the same time as the first book of Demon Card Enforcer, but different characters. And there is a character who shows up later in the later books in Demon Card Enforcer that shows up first in Shadow Card Guardian.
Okay, so a little bit of
So
crossover.
I kind of retconned that just a tiny bit. Haha, Rhett. The character's name is Rhett.
There you go.
But
Slide
all
that
of that,
in.
right? Yes, yeah, exactly. Sliding it in. But all of that was done with John's knowledge and support, and he actually was the first editor for Shadow Card Guardian because I had never written lit RPG before, so like
Hmm.
he had to really walk me through the system and like how to keep track of the stats and all that kind of stuff. So um,
Yeah.
uh, yeah, so it was a great experience, and I love it, and I would love it if you guys want to go check it out because I'm really proud of it.
Well, I
So
think, yeah, so go check it out. And I think maybe we'll just, if you're amenable after tonight, I'll put it on my list for the spring and then we can do this again in the spring.
that would be amazing
Yeah,
because
with Sure.
I might have book two coming by then. So
Ooh, dun
mhm,
dun dun. Yeah,
I
okay.
know,
I think we just made plans for the spring. So
hooray! Look
yeah,
at that.
yeah, victory. Yeah, so I mean, I talked last night about how Richie and I are interviewing Craig Hamilton, or not,
Hmm.
yeah, Craig Hamilton in a month. And he was one of those authors that went into Tao's world and wrote a System Apocalypse, series. And I think that glomming on to somebody else, like not glomming on, but like, writing in somebody else's system is such a
Hmm.
good entry into lit RPG because you don't have to,
Hmm.
you've got the pre kind of the rules set.
Hmm.
You don't have to go for all of that right out of the gate. Lit RPG, people don't believe me, but I say lit RPG is kind of hard to write because you
It
got,
can be, right? It can be
yeah.
a lot of math. I mean, it kind of depends on how you do it.
Hmm.
One of the things that was super cool about John's system is that he specifically created it to where like you can totally geek out on the math if you want, but he
Hmm.
also wrote it in such a way that you can kind of be vague
Yes,
kind of fudge
yes, that
things a
helps.
little bit.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
I'm much more on that side of things because I come from conventional storytelling as opposed to lit RPG, progression fantasy, game lit. Like
yeah,
I love that world and I'm excited to be part of it, but that's not what my background is in. I'm moving
yeah,
into that, if that makes sense.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. Well, we're not here to talk about lit RPG. We're actually here to talk about Mage Light, which is,
Yeah.
yeah, it's through Bane Books, right? So you mentioned
Hmm.
that you're traditionally published too. It's a fantasy. I listened to the audio with,
Oh, it's so
yeah, there
good.
we go. There's the cover.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a sexy book. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yep. So I listened to the narration by Jennifer Jill Araya. Is that right?
Araya, yeah,
Araya. Yep.
she's fantastic. She's a two-time Audie winner,
Hmm.
narrator, and I was so grateful to that she was available and interested in doing this project.
Yeah, she did a great job. Yeah, and
Yeah.
you could tell she was very and sometimes you get narrators. I mean, not you want to get somebody that's out of a professional like her, but sometimes you get narrators that just are narrating.
Hmm.
Sometimes they're just in
Right.
it. You can
Right.
tell she's in it. Yeah.
Yeah, she was performing so well the whole time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
But this is not a lit RPG book, but it
Mm-mm.
is magic focused fantasy with the romance teased throughout the whole thing.
Correct.
Yep.
And I would even call it gamelit adjacent, because one of the things that I have loved for years and years and years is fantasy adventure gaming, a la D&D or Pathfinder or what have you.
Hmm.
And this book, in a lot of ways, is kind of my love letter to that very classic structure of you have a party of individuals who are going out to meet an objective, and one of them is a caster and one of them is a warrior and one of them is a
Hmm.
ranger and one of them is
Yes, you
a
get this
a,
party
a rogue.
formation.
Yeah,
Hmm.
exactly. Yeah, in a very real way, Mage Light is the origin story for this particular adventuring party. So
Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. And it follows kind of those prescribed rules. So it
Hmm.
and the main character kind of has that progression sort of
Hmm.
power unlocking mechanic
Yeah.
kind of happens. So yeah, I wouldn't put this like way out of left field of like just super, I don't know, non
Yeah,
non
like I
non
say,
lit RPG, but yeah, it's definitely RPG-y. Yeah.
Yeah, I like I said, I call it game lit adjacent.
Hmm.
It's a fantasy adventure, right?
Yeah.
And the you mentioned the main character. The main character is Alice. She is so I'm gonna digress slightly.
No, go for it.
I my personal background is I'm a retired military officer and helicopter
Hmm.
pilot, and I'm a combat veteran, and you know I've done a lot of things. I have a lot of experience, and so it's when I write, and in fact, I like if you were to look at like for example, Shadow Card Guardian, my main character, my female main character, that is a complete and total badass. She too is a combat veteran. She's an ER nurse. Like she handles her business, and
Sure.
and it's funny because people know me as a relatively assertive woman who is not shy about also handling my business.
Hmm. Hmm. So
People are
maybe
like,
a
oh,
little self-insert in there, a little.
oh, always, right? Like
Yeah.
every
Yeah.
story, every character is a little piece of me. You
Yeah.
know, I'm not even, I'm not
Whenever
going to
somebody is
pretend
like,
otherwise.
"Oh, do you have any of you in there?" It's like every author puts
Yeah, where
just
did it come from if
yeah,
not from
right.
me, right?
Hmm.
So,
Hmm.
but no, the truth is that uh, you know, people are like, oh, you must write like really strong female characters, and I do try to, but more than that, I really try to write well rounded characters and
Hmm.
interesting characters and characters that are like that feel like real people. And so one of the things I wanted to experiment with this one was I wanted to start with a young heroine, someone who was not sure of herself. In fact, was quite the
Yeah.
opposite of sure of herself. She has, I think one reviewer put it so brilliantly that she has the self confidence of a wet dish rag at the beginning of the
Yes.
story.
Yes. She is.
You know,
Hmm.
and I wanted to track her growth throughout the story and kind of discovering like, oh no, okay, I can do difficult things and I can accumulate power and I can stand up for myself and I can make my own choices and I can handle the consequences of those choices, you know? So
Hmm.
so that was a lot of what I wanted to play with too.
Yeah, it's fascinating because the three guys that end up in her sphere are
Hmm.
they've all had journeys and
Hmm.
um are maybe a little bit more mature in how
Yeah.
they view the world and their life experience. And when they meet her, they're all like, okay, what's wrong with her? Like, how did this wet rag become a wet rag? Because somebody's hurt her, and it's like this puzzle they're trying to solve of like,
Yeah.
well, how do we help untangle the
Yeah.
sad the sad little sop that she
Yeah.
at first is. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, for
That's
sure, for sure.
hmm.
So here's a kind of silly behind the scenes look. I deliberately wanted there to be a, you know, because again, I wanted them to be part of her journey and part of her gaining of experience. I deliberately wanted the guys to be older and more mature and have more, like I said, experience than Alice, right?
Hmm.
But I also didn't want to be creepy. So I legit, and this is nowhere on the page, but just so that you all know, at the time of Mage Light, the guys are all 31, 32, depending on where their birthdays are. And I figured this all out. It's all in my little
You
notebook.
did the math. Yeah.
I did. They're all 31, 32. And Alice is 22 years old because I did the as long as they are half your age plus 7, it's not creepy rule. So I figured that all out, and and that's how old they are, so that it's not
Okay. Yeah.
gross.
Yeah. Yeah.
That there's a little bit of
An age gap
romantic
there. Yeah.
tension between them. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'll say it doesn't like when you're reading it, you don't get creeped out. Like they have a little
Thank
bit
you.
more
That means
experience,
a
but
lot
they're
to
not
me.
like, let's prey on. And they very carefully don't prey on her
Right.
um, just vulnerability in her youth. At like, I
Yeah.
mean, and that kind of helps keep it out of the creep vector because they're like,
Thanks.
we need to figure this out,
Right.
not,
Right.
let's get her in bed. So,
Right. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So yeah, she in fact what's funny about it is that because one of the other big themes of my story is actually, you know, a theme of consent, right? So the bare bones like summary of the story is you have this young sorceress who is not very good at what she does, and she's never been very powerful, but she managed to graduate and then she gets her heart broken and she runs away, gets her, you know, gets into trouble, and these three guys rescue her, and she hires them to take her home. But before they can do that, the bandits that attacked her on the road, they come back, which is real weird. No one can really figure out why, and kind of trap them in this burning building, and they're all gonna die, and like there's no way out until she does something weird that she doesn't know what it is. She can't figure it out either, but she does something weird, and it results in big magic that saves their lives, but binds these guys to her in an emotional, like, sort of compulsion to be with her and to protect her and
Yeah.
to take care of her. And so she's horrified by this because she doesn't know what she did, she doesn't know how to undo it, but she knows that they didn't agree to it. And so that, that question of do they really feel protective of me, do they really like me like this,
Hmm.
or is it just my magic? Like, that's really foremost in her mind throughout the whole thing, um, because yeah, like I said, it is a story of consent and choices, and you know, dealing with the consequences of your actions,
Yeah.
even if you didn't necessarily mean those actions to turn out the way that they did, you still got to deal with it, so
Yeah. And I think with the men too in the story, there's this like one of them is like super accepting of like, oh, of course, you're
yeah,
amazing and I'm gonna follow you. And the one is kind of in the middle, and the third one's like, no, I don't want this. Like,
yeah.
stop. It's good. It's a good balance. It's a very well balanced book.
Thank you.
Um, yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, well, I was just saying that I wanted to explore, like, you know, kind of their different reactions to that based on the backstories that I created
Hmm.
for these guys.
Yeah.
And because you would have different reactions depending on kind of what your motivation is. The one character, Dane, who's like all in from the get-go, his main motivation is he has never really felt wanted or like he belonged or like someone really, he's never felt chosen. And so the fact that she's like needs him and
Hmm.
seems to want to be near him is something that like really lights him up. Whereas on the opposite end of the spectrum, the character of Romik was literally, in part of his backstory, he was literally enslaved and owned by another human in
And it
this.
just can't stand the thought of being owned
And he
again,
can't,
right?
right, he
Yeah.
can't stand the thought of being controlled or owned by another
Hmm.
human being ever again in his life, because he fought free of that once before. So yeah, two very different reactions, two very different series of events, that
Yeah.
that kind of led up to that. And that was a lot of fun to kind of weave into the story, while you have this very young woman kind of haplessly figuring things out. Oh, Geneva's here.
Yeah.
Hi, Geneva.
Yeah, we got a crowd tonight. Hey everybody,
Yeah.
thanks for joining. Yeah. Think about some of the questions that you want to ask Casey. And I just want to, I normally ask, we got into it pretty quick, but would you, when somebody comes up to you in a con, they want to say, hey Casey, how would you like people to address you?
Casey. Yeah,
Casey.
Casey
Okay.
works. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay,
So.
sweet. All right. I agree. I think one of the things, and we're like totally off script, and that's okay because we're having fun and this is a good conversation. But like
uh, that's that's
one of the
sort of my
things
brand. I don't
I
know if
know,
you've met
yeah.
me.
One of the things I really like about the male point of view that you're bringing into the story is that if you're not just focused on her vulnerability and her
Yeah.
kind of, like you also have like these guys are like real guys with emotions and backstories, and it's not you don't have like the there's some toxic tough guy in there, but it's
Yeah.
because of a reason, right? It's not just there because it's there. You
Yeah.
give that perspective, which I appreciate too.
Oh, well, thank you. So that means a lot to me. So the truth of the matter is, I read all over the place, right? Like, my personal reading taste is all over the place.
Mhm.
But I one of the things that I enjoy reading quite a bit are reverse harem romances, right? Where it's a romance story that where you've got a central female character, and then she has more than one love interest,
Love
and
interest,
doesn't have
yeah.
to choose, right? Obviously, some inspiration going on here for me
Yeah, yeah. We were
from
gonna get
the
there. Yeah.
genre. Yeah, yeah. But one of the things that as a reader and as a writer, and to be honest with you, as a woman who has amazing men in her life that I love very much, not I only have one romantic interest in my life,
Yeah. Yeah.
but like I know a lot of really great guys that mean a lot to me. It annoys me when I read men who are obviously
Cardboard cutout.
solely written for
Mhm.
the female gaze, right? Like they're not real dudes. They're not fully fleshed characters in their own right.
Mhm.
Um, and and I don't enjoy that. It feels lazy to me. So when I was creating the characters of Romic, Vil, and Dane, I very specifically reached out to several of my friends uh, uh, who are writers, right? So it's like Casey Moores, Nick Steverson, um, a couple of other guys, and I reached out to them and I was like, hey, please beta read this for me. And specifically, what I want you to do is read about the guys and tell me, does this feel realistic to you? Does this feel like a guy, or does it feel like some chick's fantasy of what a guy
Fantasy
would
dog.
be like?
Mhm.
Yeah, and I got incredible feedback on that. There were specifically one that comes top of mind from Nick right away. He there was a scene in the beginning. There's no, this is not a spoiler, but there's a scene in the beginning where Romic is basically quitting his job as a mercenary officer, um, and I have him like exchanging, some dialogue with his superior officer as he is like basically handing in his notice, and I made very clear that there's not a good relationship between these two men, right? They kind of hate each other, and Nick is like, "Yeah, girl, absolutely not. Like, when we don't like each other, if we can't hit each other, we just don't fucking talk. Oh, sorry, we just don't talk to each other."
You're
Um,
okay.
sorry about that. And I was like, oh, you know what? You're right. Because I saw that. I saw that in my military career all the time. It just didn't twig in my brain because I don't approach conflict the way that a dude does. I
Mhm.
approach conflict the way that a female does, right? Because I
Mhm.
am a female and I have a female brain, etc. So, um, so things like that were so helpful, because I wanted to create like three-dimensional characters who felt like actual guys. So,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, they have abs too, but
oh yeah, they're
there's
super
there's
hot, but
motivation
also
and there's there's all the rest of it too.
yeah. I don't think I have them shirtless though, so we'll
Yeah.
save that for the next book.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, no, super hot dudes, but also real guys.
Mhm. Yeah. 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 All right. So I wanted to focus on a little bit about the consent aspect
Yeah.
that we talked about early. So one of the things that set Ayla apart for me was that like one of her takeaways in life is that she had been kind of treated unfairly, and
Mhm.
she really wasn't willing to put these guys who are under this like compulsory bond.
Mhm.
She wasn't going to take advantage of them through before that. And I want to
Mhm.
talk, what was your inspiration? What was your, we talked a little bit about your reasoning, but like I think that was like one of the highlights, because when you get, for me, because a lot of fantasy, a lot of reverse harem, just a lot of books have this like compulsory magic obedience. Like if there's
Mhm.
any sort of bond like that, it goes in the opposite direction.
Mhm.
Talk a little bit about why it's important that that didn't happen in this one.
So, well, one, I didn't initially when in the very first draft of this story, I didn't really know how I was going to successfully end the story. Like so much of the story existed already in my head.
Mhm.
But the ending that I had, I was like, I don't I it didn't really work out correctly. But I turned it in. I submitted it to Bain. Tony Weisskopf, who's the president, owner, editor of Bain Books, publisher at Bain Books.
Mhm.
She did my developmental edit. She um came back and said, yeah, let's go through this. She gave me like this incredible developmental edit, and it was kind of like a revise and resubmit type situation,
Mhm.
right? So one of the things that she pointed out that I couldn't see when I had first originally written it, because I was too close to the story, and you know how you get, like, you just get too into it and you can't see the forest for the trees, right? She was the one who pointed out that consent was a theme throughout the whole thing, that choices were a theme throughout the whole thing, that like
Mhm.
that at its core, this is a story of a young woman who's never had any choices, growing up and learning that it is that her choices should not have been taken from her, but that if she does want to make her own choices, she also has to deal with the consequences of those choices.
Hmm.
Um, and and that as someone who has had her choices taken away from her, it, it is not it would not be fair for her to then take the choices away from these guys, even if it was accidental, and even if they said they wanted to be with her, because how could she know, right?
Yeah.
So so it was actually Tony Weisskopf who was like, I think you need to make a bigger deal out of this. I think you need to have her like unequivocally say, shatter the bond, or do all of these things. um, and and that was part of her developmental edit for me. And when she said that, it was like a key
The
clicked
light
in a
bulb
lock
moment. Yeah.
in my head, and I was like, oh snap, you're right, you're so right. And so
Hmm.
I revised it, per her edits, and resubmitted it, and that was when she was like, yeah, I love this, let's do it. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. That makes sense. That's awesome that you're able to get that feedback
Oh, I know.
early.
I'm
And
so
yeah.
grateful, especially from because. So, if you're not familiar with Toni Weisskopf, the publisher of Baen Books, she is one of the smartest women in this business. She's been in publishing since the '80s. She's worked with so many of the greats like Lois McMaster Bujold and David Weber, and you know,
Yeah.
uh,
I mean, Bane's got a really
yeah,
laundry
Steve
list of,
Sterling, like,
yeah.
and she knows her stuff, right? Like, so I
Mhm.
was, even if she had turned it down, um after the resubmit, like the fact that she gave me such an extensive dev edit, I was like, dude, I am a very lucky girl.
Feeling grateful. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
grateful, so grateful. So,
Well, it looks like we might have lost Wilkie, but they
oh, I'm
did
sorry,
have a
Wilkie.
question. Yeah, but we've got a question here. When writing characters like these, where do you pull inspiration to make them so unique? Um,
So for a lot of my characters, they kind of start off with like maybe a singular concept, and I just sort of like build around that. And and I kind of think about what would be interesting, and most of the time I kind of start with motivation, right? So,
Mhm.
like I mentioned the character of Romic, and so much of his actions are determined by his backstory, his motivation of, I had to fight so hard to get free. I'm never
Mhm.
going to be chained again.
Yeah.
And that kind of came from just kind of thinking about, okay, well, who is this guy? What drives him? What does he want more than anything else in the world? And
Mhm.
those are a lot of the questions that I ask myself in order to try and build this complete picture of who a character is. And it sort of happens organically as I'm telling the story. It's not like I don't usually sit down and like figure it all out before I start to think about the rest of the story. Although I have utilized a process that's kind of like that too. It just kind of
Yeah.
depends.
Yeah. So it sounds like it's more of like part of it is the just well-roundedness of the character. So you get that well-rounded character, you know.
Sorry, my cord is falling down. Yeah,
It's okay.
one of the best pieces of advice that I ever heard, and I don't know, maybe it's not really advice, but one of the most profound things that's really impacted my writing was the saying that every villain is the hero of their own story. And so that's true not just of villains, but that's true of everybody, right? Like,
Hmm.
random side character NPC is the hero of their own story. And so when I kind of think about it that way, it's like, okay, so why do they act the way that they do? Because obviously, on some level, they think that that's the best thing that should do, um,
Yeah. Yeah.
given whatever circumstance. So,
Given what's happening. Yeah.
hmm.
All right, I'm gonna twist here to a different question, and this one is very personal to me. So
Okay.
you've got a thief, a warrior, and a forester. For
Hmm.
those of you who know me, I started off my life as a forester
Oh, really? Oh, I didn't
professionally.
know
Yes.
that. That's so
Yeah, yeah. So I had to know like why. I mean, a
cool.
lot of those when you're forming that party, it's archer or hunter or whatever. Why
Yeah.
forester? I'm fascinated and happy that you included one.
So I use specifically that term because I knew that I wanted him to be like I knew that I wanted him to be just a badass archer, but I wanted more than that, right? Like, I didn't just want essentially a medieval artilleryman, which is what like a lot of military longbowmen were. Um,
Mhm.
I also wanted someone who was an expert tracker, expert in woodcraft, all of those things, all
Yeah.
of those um, ranger skills. But I wanted him to have a reason to have that training. And what uh, one of the formative series that I read when I was a kid was Raymond Feist's Rift War Saga with like
Yes,
Magician
one of the
Apprentice.
classic, one of my
Yeah,
favorites too.
yeah.
Yep.
And I don't remember what he called them in
Martin,
there.
Martin, and
Yeah, but
yep.
but I remember that it was like an official title that served the Duke, right? It was
Mhm.
like the Duke's Forester or something. I can't remember exactly what it was, but it put me in mind of this. So like, okay, well, just like the United States has the U.S. Forestry Service with park rangers, whose job it is to to enforce laws, but also to take care of
To
these
manage the
natural
forest. Yeah.
resources, yeah, and manage manage those spaces. This empire has a core of individuals who are also similarly entrusted and similarly trained, and they're called the Imperial Foresters because I guess I'm just not super creative. so,
Hey, it works. I mean, it fits
so
the
that's
world.
that's
Yeah.
yeah, that's sort of
Yeah.
was the inspiration and why I chose that name instead of just calling him like a ranger. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm just
So
gonna go on record now that if anybody puts a forester as a character in their book, I will welcome them gladly on the podcast to talk about go forestry.
there you go. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. It was just a nice little like bonus for me
Yeah,
in doing
yeah,
the
yeah, yeah,
story. So yeah.
yeah. That's kind of how I feel when people write about helicopter pilots.
Yeah. There you go. Yes. Same. Same. Same.
That's right. That's right. As so long as they do it well. So I hope I did it well.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I wasn't quite as OP as your forester, but
I mean, fair,
hmm
fair. So
hmm
yeah.
All right, we've got a question coming from Brian. Um, how do you connect with Chris Kennedy and the Four Horsemen universe?
Oh yeah. No, this is great. Okay, so I mentioned that I write for Chris Kennedy Publishing, and I'm one of the
Hmm.
core authors of the Four Horsemen universe, which is this massive shared world military science fiction universe that was created by Mark Wandry and Chris Kennedy. I think the first book in that series came out in I think 2017. And it's called Cartwright's Cavaliers. To date, I think there are 102 novels out. We are
Nice.
wrapping up the main arc as we speak. In fact, I was writing scenes for my latest book in the sort of wrap up the Exodus today earlier,
Hmm.
um, and I got involved in that because I wrote a zombie story for a Baen anthology that was published um, 20 I think it came out in 2016. It might have been 2015 that it came out, but it was called Black Tide Rising, and it was in John Ringo's zombie apocalypse universe, right? And I knew John; he was a friend of mine, so he knew that I wrote. He invited me to contribute a story. I wrote a story about cheerleaders. John and Kelly or Gary Poole, the other editor, they liked it, and it became the cover story. And so that was sort of like my big break-in moment, right? So
Hmm.
Chris and Mark were launching the Four Horsemen universe, and they had read Black Tide Rising, and they liked my story, and they knew that I was kind of new on the scene, and so they reached out to me and asked and said, "Hey, we're doing something new. We don't, I mean, it's not the first shared world, obviously, but we're like,
Hmm.
we're launching something new. We'd love to include you. We're going to have an anthology. Would you like to contribute a short story?" And I said yes. And so I wrote a short story called Gilded Cage. That allowed, and in that short story, I introduced a new type of alien to the Four Horsemen universe, known as the Depik. And I had noticed that a lot of the a lot of the aliens in the Four Horsemen universe had a lot of like Earth animal traits and
Yeah. Yeah.
descriptions to them.
Crossover. Yeah.
Right. Now, there is definitely an in-universe reason for that you eventually learn. But at the time, I was like, oh my gosh, so you've got like dog aliens and elephant aliens and like, praying mantis aliens.
Yeah.
And I have two cats, and I was like, why don't you have a cat alien? And if you
Where are the
did,
cats?
right,
Yeah.
and if you did, why are they not like absolute sociopaths? And so I made, because that's how house cats are, right? They're cuddly
Mhm.
little sociopaths.
Yeah.
And so I was like, all right, well, yeah, you know, here's what I'd like to create. And I pitched the story. Chris and Mark loved it. I wrote it. It came out in the first Four Horsemen anthology, A Fistful of Credits, and got great response. The fans loved it. Chris and Mark loved it. They invited me to expand it into a novel. And
Nice.
at the time, I was finishing up my first solo novel, or I had just finished my first solo novel, um, and or no, I was still finishing it up, and I was under contract for another novel with Bain that I was co-writing with John Ringo and Christopher L. Smith,
Hmm.
and they exist, Iron Ice, jellyfish aliens, they do, yeah. Um, they and so I was like, I would love to do this novel with you guys, but I am very busy. May I bring in a co-author? And they were like, sure. And so I called my best friend Marisa Wolf. I sent her the story Gilded Cage, and I was like, hey, what do you think? Because we used to send each other stories all the time. And she was like,
Yeah.
oh my god, this is awesome, like I love this. And I was like, cool. You want to
Gonna do
write a
this with me.
book with me? She was like, excuse me, what? so, so we worked together and we wrote Assassin. And again, the fan response was awesome. And so that's how we kind of
Keep going.
became
Yeah.
core authors of the Four Horsemen universe. Yeah.
That's awesome. Well,
Yeah. Long
Doug's
story. Sorry, I kind
asking.
of babbled.
No, you're okay. Doug's asking, how do you fit a single main arc in over 100 novels? Like how?
So, so the truth of the matter is that it's actually multiple arcs, right, Doug? But there are questions that were asked and things that were hinted at in Cartwright's Cavaliers that are only now being answered 102 books later, if that makes sense. So
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
Do you read all of the rest of the books, or is there like a cheat sheet that's like, these are
we
the
have a
things that you need
Bible.
to
Yeah,
know?
we have a Bible.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. so,
Because that would be a big commitment. Like we wouldn't want
it
you to
is.
write in our universe. You have to read, 99 books to
Yeah, yeah.
to get caught up.
Um,
Yeah.
now we do have access to those books, right? We just, we just basically ask the publisher, hey, can I get a copy of this, so that I can,
Yeah, and they just send you over
for
yeah.
my own situation awareness. And Chris has done a phenomenal job. I don't know how he does it, but he has done a phenomenal job of like really protecting the continuity and um, the sort of integrity of the world details and stuff. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Do you ever get a note that's like, hey, this time period in your book could really use the side character from the other one as like a
Oh, all the time.
yeah.
All the time. We do it all the time. Like, because we all talk to each other, right? Like all the Four Horsemen authors.
Hmm.
So and because people like the Depic, right? So the Depic end up being like felinoid assassins, the galaxy's deadliest assassins, right? And
Hmm.
so anytime someone wants to use a Depic, sort of the standing policy is, you
Go talk to
probably
Kacey.
can, but talk to Kacey and Marisa, right? Because
Yeah.
they're our aliens. Um,
Yeah.
and so they do, and we kind of, we've definitely been like, hey, so they wouldn't really do this, you might try this instead. Like we've helped massage
Mm.
things, but it
That one's
it
too
overworks, it all
nice. Needs
works
a little more sociopath.
a little bit, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
All right. So I'm going to bring it back to Mage Light real quick, and then we're going to talk
okay.
about writing as a whole. So Mage Light definitely had the reverse harem sort of like flavor to it, although it's not
Hmm.
explicit in this particular
Right,
book at
there's
all.
no sex on the page, yeah.
Hmm.
I characterize it as it's a fantasy adventure with a reverse slow burn reverse harem subplot, if that makes
Yeah,
sense.
that does make
um
sense. And
yeah.
that begets
And
the
then
next question of in book two, I'm assuming there's going to be a book two, if that
mhm.
then kind of if the romantic aspect of it escalates, or are you going to stay slow burn off screen sort of? Have you made that
Yeah,
decision yet?
so yes, because the book is done. It's kind of
You
turned
know.
in. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so the romance does continue. It does escalate slightly, but I made the decision to keep any spice any spicy scenes off the page. So it's what you would call a closed door romance, I guess.
Yeah.
Um, However, that being said, I my plan is to include on my for my paid membership
Patreon.
on my
Yeah.
site, yeah, for those who would like to read the spicy scenes, they'll be available for my paid supporters. So
Yeah. That's
yeah,
awesome. Yeah.
yeah, because sometimes people like
I
that
mean,
thing.
some people want that, you know. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's good. It's good. That's
yeah,
a good. That's a good bonus for folks, right?
right,
Who want it, but you don't want to maybe limit the audience.
right.
Otherwise,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah. So
yeah.
and the reason that I don't characterize it as a romance or a romantasy overall is because when you really look at it, the central question of the story is not are they going to get together or aren't they, right? Which is
Yeah,
in a romance, that's the central question. The
yeah.
central question of this story is, at least with Mage Light, is um, are they going to survive, and can Alice grow up enough to do,
Hmm.
to be able to make her own choices and accept and deal with the consequences of them.
Yeah.
So
There is a gratuitous amount of like teasing the romance, though. I must say,
I
like, I mean, it's
mean,
yeah, you keep everybody just kind of that pot is simmering the
that's
whole way
the
through.
the
Yeah,
the reason for that though is I like most writers, I write when I want to read, and I love a good like drawn
simmer.
out romantic
Hmm.
tension, slow burn, like, you know, the charged looks across the room and the yeah, I love
Hmm.
that. I love it. Love it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. All right, so Iron Eyes is bringing us back to the Four Horsemen. So is the 100 full books? So is this 100 full books, or do we have a few short story
Oh,
anthologies in
yeah.
there?
Yeah, there are several short story anthologies. And in fact, if you were just really interested in like dipping a toe into the Four Horsemen universe, the anthologies are a great place to start because they're kind of like the novels follow an arc of arcs, if that makes sense. But the short stories are much more like sandbox play, right? Like, oh, okay, there's this corner of the universe that you had this cool idea in. Go ahead and write that story. So I think to date there are 6 or 7, I think, short story anthologies. So
Yeah,
information on all of those you can find on the Chris Kennedy website. It's chriskennedypublishing.com. And it's the series has its own imprint, Seventh Seal Press, and so if you check out that imprint, then you'll be able
then
to
you've
see
got
all
it
the
all.
things.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Doug's suggesting that your spicy Patreon should be called
only
Only
spice.
Spice.
I love it.
Yeah,
That's funny. That's
yeah.
funny.
All right, so let's get into some of the author like process sort of
Yeah.
writing questions. We're going to start off with Brian. He is asking, what does your somebody was yeah, oops, okay. What does your writing schedule look like? Daily, weekly, any rituals that you do?
I'm so flattered that you think I have an actual organized schedule. um,
We're
no,
all
no.
chaos goblins. There's a
Yeah.
yeah,
So you probably can't see it, but my shirt says chaotic good, right?
yeah.
Do
Hmm.
the right
I
thing
fall
the
into
wrong
that
way.
category as well. Yeah.
um, no, I do have a process, and I do prefer to be organized. Like, I'm kind of a planner girly. I have all the pretty notebooks and the fun
Hmm.
like 6 ring binders and all that stuff. Um, this year has been particularly challenging because I've been doing so much travel that it's just completely thrown me out of my schedule. But typically, my ideal sort of working at home day is I am a full time writer, but I also homeschool my 12-year-old. So, um, it's one of those like. My day sort of sits in chunks, right? So like the first chunk of the day is usually like I get up and I do household chores like unload the dishwasher and start the laundry because I'm a stay-at-home mom, right? So I
Yeah,
gotta
yeah. Still gotta get
somebody's
this.
got to do this stuff,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know. Um, and then there will be a chunk of my day where I'm doing homeschooling tasks. Like working with my daughter. She does a lot of her. I mean, she's 12, so she does a lot of work just independently. But there are things that we do together, or we'll like go places and do experiences together and stuff for
Hmm.
homeschool. And then so a lot of my writing is in the afternoon to to late evening, with like dinner and dinner prep thrown in there because my family, they have this weird quirk where they want to eat every day. I don't know, it's crazy.
What's with that? Yeah.
Right?
Every
So,
other day should be enough, right?
I don't know. It's this dinner obsession that we have. It's nuts. But anyway, no, I really do enjoy cooking for my family. So I spend some time doing that, and then what I will do a lot is I have found over the last about year and a half, um, I really it helps me to stay focused a lot if I'm co-writing or co not or co-working, I should say. So sometimes I'll run. A lot of times I'll hop on. I have my own fan Discord, and I have a private channel in my fan Discord where I'll hop on with some of my writer friends in a voice chat, a video chat, and
Hmm.
we'll do writing sprints together where we do focused, intense work for like 25 minutes, and then take like a 5 to 15 minute break in between to like chat and
Yeah.
BS and get water or whatever. Sometimes we do that, and sometimes we just sit there and work side by side. But just being there with another person really does help me to stay focused on, okay, I'm in it. I'm working on this book, rather than being
Yeah, that
like, oh,
parallel
what's going
work.
on over on YouTube right now?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You got somebody else who's like, hey, how'd
Yeah,
that writing sprint go?
yeah,
Close
yeah,
this
yeah,
YouTube tab. Yeah,
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 yeah. So,
yeah,
um,
yeah, yeah. No, great question. Keep the questions coming. We'll get to them, maybe not in specific order, but we'll get to all your questions. I'm
yeah.
going to throw one of mine at you though. You've written short stories, you've written novels. Which medium do you like best?
Oh, that's a really good question. And I've kind of got a cop out answer for you. The answer is it depends on the story, right?
Hmm.
Because sometimes there's a beautiful story that I want to tell, but it really is just a short story. It's just a vignette, right? It's just a
Hmm.
small, like, poignant moment. And then sometimes there's a story that I want to tell that I think is also beautiful and poignant and entertaining and fun. And it's a longer arc. And so that one needs to be a novel. So it just kind of depends
Yeah,
on
the
yeah.
inspiration.
Right. Now, that's the artistic
And what's the
answer,
real
okay?
answer? Yeah,
The capitalist answer is I like novels because they pay more.
yeah, yeah, yeah. That's fair.
So,
Yeah.
two sides of me. Choose your favorite.
Like the 10, $20 for the short story, it just doesn't buy too many dinners for the family.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Nothing
yeah.
to sneeze at, and we're grateful for it, but yeah.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Going on that short story route, Iron Eyes wanted to know if there was any specific short stories you'd recommend for someone completely unfamiliar. I think that's for the
For the 4-HU, yeah.
yeah.
I would say if you're going to start with the 4-HU and short stories, I would recommend picking up A Fistful of Credits. Obviously, I would love it if you read my story, A Gilded Cage or The Gilded Cage, because I think you'd enjoy that. I certainly enjoyed writing it. But there are a lot of super, super good stories in that volume that do a really great job of sort of illustrating the world. One of the ones that comes to mind initially is, I can't remember the title of it, but it's by Kevin Eikenberry, and it's the story of Jessica Francis, who ends up becoming the Earth's first human peacemaker. So yeah,
Hmm.
it's very good.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so I've got that in the chat. So if you didn't catch it, go pick up A Fistful of Credits.
Yeah.
We've got another question. Do you have a specific space that you have that's like dedicated to writing? Iron Eyes is very new to
Mm,
it, and what I've been doing is going to my public library and doing my writing there. So,
yeah.
and 90-minute sessions every morning. How
Yeah.
about you? Do you have a?
So I have an office in my home that I absolutely love. It's got all my books in it. It's very pretty. It's got like, pretty art on the walls. I've got a window where I can watch it snow outside. It's great. Um, but it's funny because I have been doing so much traveling lately. I've kind of gotten to the point where I'm like, I kind of need. I have my backpack that has become like my mobile office.
Just living out of the backpack? Yeah.
Well, kind of, right? So I've got like my laptop in there, I've got my planner in there, I've got, like a plotting notebook in there. And so it's funny because it's like, okay, I prefer to be at my office in my home at my desk with my beautiful monitors, my dual monitors and all my little accessories and music and blah
Hmm.
blah 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 blah. But if I need to, I can just like camp out on my friend's couch with my
Got the
laptop and my
essentials.
notebook. Yeah.
Hmm.
Right. Yeah.
Hmm. Is there like a thing or something that like puts you in the zone when you're traveling? Do you have like a favorite pen or a keyboard or something that you take with you and use?
So it's really what it really is it's my process. I mean, and my laptop, right? I love my
So you're
laptop.
at your friend's
It
house,
works
you
great.
get up and you start doing their dishes, and then
No, no, it's the writing process. So,
gotcha.
and maybe this is how I should have answered the earlier question. I do what everyone tells you not to do. I edit as I go. I am a cycle writer. So the very first thing that I do when I sit down to write is I read what I have read, what I wrote during the previous writing session,
Hmm.
and I will do edits there at the same time. That does two things for me. One, it gets me back into the world and into the voice of the character. And two, it shows me places that are weaker and that I can like tweak and make a little bit stronger, right? So by the time that I've written 100,000 word novel, I've read through it multiple times already.
Hmm.
That makes my editing process so much quicker because I love writing. I do not love editing. I
Yeah.
know some writers that editing is their favorite part because they feel like they're just making it better and making it better. After I type the end, I want it to be done.
Yep.
Now I'm a professional, so I do
So
my
you'll
editing
edit. Yep.
process,
Hmm.
but I don't have to like it.
Yeah. Yeah. I fall into that too. Like I mean
Yeah.
like I see the value in editing and it
Hmm.
does improve a person as a writer and having that feedback's really
Yeah.
important, makes the story better. But man,
Right.
it's like nails on chalkboard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it can be, right? But by cycle writing, it helps me produce a cleaner draft at the beginning, so that my full editing process really ends up being okay. I'm going to read through it out loud, which is key. I read it out
Yep. I do
loud
that too.
from front to back to listen for word repetition, awkward phrasing, um,
I think
things
that's
that
really
just don't
important
work.
too. I think that's really important too if you're going to have it narrated,
Yes.
to be able to say it, because if you can't, if you're stumbling and if it's awkward for you, it's going to be hard
Yeah.
to
Well,
hear.
and here's another thing is that there is some writing advice out there that I vehemently disagree with. That says that when you're talking about your dialogue tags, you should only ever use the word "said" because it disappears when when people are reading a book. And while that may be true for people who are reading with their eyes, it is absolutely not true for people who are reading with their ears,
Yeah.
i.e., listening to an audiobook. And I learned this from Larry Correa, who is again an Audie award-winning author who's sold so many audiobooks. Um, so um, so I have completely disregarded that writing advice from my life,
Yeah.
and I use action tags more often than dialogue tags because they sound better audially. And also, I'm going to jump on my soapbox here for one moment, if you don't mind.
Hop on. We're here for it.
Uh, with with all due respect, if you are a person who believes that listening to audiobooks is cheating, you are wrong.
I agree with that.
You are
Yeah.
wrong.
Yeah, you're just wrong.
My yeah, well, my thousands of years of oral traditions are
Hmm.
part of what make us human, right?
Yeah.
Homer was he didn't write that stuff down. He was a poet. He spoke the Iliad. He spoke the Odyssey.
Hmm.
And furthermore, I'm this is something I'm really passionate about because my daughter that I mentioned that I homeschool, she has pretty severe dyslexia, and reading is a chore for her. Reading with her eyes is a chore for her, but she loves stories and she's so creative and so brilliant, and she just really gets immersed in the world. So being able to listen to an audiobook is a perfect solution for her to give her that joy in stories that she
Experience. Yeah.
wouldn't otherwise be able to have because her brain works differently.
Yeah.
So
And I think when you're like, oh, that doesn't count. I mean, that's just it's you're limiting. You're like
it's
closing the door on
gatekeeping. It's
people. Yeah,
dumb.
it's
Don't
total
be dumb.
gatekeeping. It's like screw you. Yeah. Yeah. Like
Yeah. So, like I
yeah,
said, with all due respect, you're wrong if that's
you're
how you
wrong.
feel.
Absolutely. Yeah. 100% agree. Yeah.
Come at me.
Yeah.
I don't
Hmm.
care.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So bring any last questions. We got a little bit of time left, so if you've got one, otherwise we're gonna hop over and I'm gonna ask a couple more of mine. I think we've talked a little bit about your you are trad published, you're indie published, you've done
Mhm.
some self-publishing. Um, I don't know if there's any part of your journey as an author that you want to talk about or just kind of highlight for everybody that was maybe unique or a way that you get your foot in the door or, you know, I don't
I
know.
will
I think
say,
you paid me not to ask which of those versions of publishing you like best, but uh,
you know, that's actually not a bad question. I like each of them for different reasons. Like
mhm,
there is nothing. The one most wonderful thing about self-publishing Shadow Card Guardian is that I could do whatever I wanted.
mhm.
You know, with the asterisk of it was John
John's
Stovall's
World,
IP,
yeah,
right? So so of course I had to defer to him on some things, but not very much because he's super flexible, awesome guy to work with. Um, but I also love not having to do formatting, for example. I also love not having to pay for my own cover or pay for
yeah.
professional
Those upfront
editing.
costs can add up.
Right, exactly. It was awesome to be able to source my own voice actor for the audiobook of Shadow Card Guardian. But it was also amazing to have to be able to have a two-time audio award winning voice actress
Yeah,
performing Mage Light that because I personally as a solo artist can't afford her because she's very expensive
yeah,
because she's a
yeah,
professional because she's got all this training yada 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 you know what I mean. So
mhm,
yeah, it's kind of like
yeah,
pick your poison or pick the thing that you love the best, and it's
yeah.
different things for different reasons.
Yeah, I think of it as it's like a little slide bar, like how much control, how
Yeah,
much money, how
yeah, it's
much,
expensive. Yeah,
yeah, administrative work. Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
There's just a lot there.
And and I love getting the bulk of the royalties from Shadow Card Guardian, right?
Mhm.
That's pretty great. But I also love having Simon and Schuster distribute my books into Barnes and Noble like they do for
Yeah,
Mage Light. So
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. It's a balancing act, right?
Yep. Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. That it makes a lot of sense. I always tell people like, oh, you're an author. That must be insert word that demeans being an author and it makes it sound easy. And it's like, man, it does. I don't care if you're trad, you're indie, you're
Yeah.
self-published. It is hard. It is work. You know.
Sure.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah. Just because it's fun doesn't mean it's work. It's not
yes,
work, right? Like
exactly.
flying helicopters was fun, but it kicked my butt at the end of the day. I was exhausted.
Hmm.
So,
Hmm.
you
Yeah,
know.
absolutely. I have more stories from the time period of which I was a forester than maybe any other time period in my life. But it was, yeah, 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 it was fun, but not.
Yeah. Yeah,
There's a
no,
reason
sure.
I'm not a forester anymore, and there's probably,
Sure, sure,
yeah, right.
sure.
Okay, so we've hit the end of the hour. Time flies
I
when we're having
know.
fun. I'm glad we've already got plans for you to come back in the spring.
I know, I'm
So
excited.
yeah, it's
I'm
gonna be
excited.
fun.
And
I
if you
do have,
ever do the author after dark thing, call me.
yeah,
Because
yeah. Well,
if you
Richie, yeah,
if you know, you know.
hmm, yeah, yeah. Hear that, Richie?
Trust me, I know.
Dun dun dun. Yeah,
uh,
yeah.
oh
So
my gosh.
yeah,
Do you want to hear a funny do you want to hear a funny
yeah.
story real quick?
Give it. Yep.
So the thing that we're all like giggling about references for those of you who don't know, it references a Dragon Con After Dark panel. It was an adult only panel that had some like spicy content at Dragon Con this past year that I was on, and Rec and Richie were both there. And
Mhm.
afterwards, you guys, my I have two daughters. One of them is she's an adult. She's 23, or she's about to turn 23. Like a week or so later, I get like this DM from her in TikTok that's like, "Why is there a picture of my parents making out on my TikTok feed?" And it was from that panel. So you're all welcome.
No, that panel it's a breed of its own, and that is no pun
It was
intended.
it was so much fun. It was so much fun.
So it start. like obviously I'm in the crowd, and we all got there kind of early because we're like, hey, we're part of the crew, and they're like,
Yeah.
okay, that works. And we wanted the first 2 rows in the middle section to be the hype rows.
And you guys
And-
did a great job.
Hey, we tried. But not to mention that right before the panel started, Jez and Matt called me over and were like, hey, here's some money. Go get us a bottle of rum. We're going to need it. So Jez is like, hey, go to the bar upstairs. And I was like, okay. And I was like, Jez, they're wanting $200 for a bottle of rum. What the fuck? And he goes, oh, I may go to the liquor store. So I go to the liquor store and get a gallon of rum
Yikes.
of Kraken that's 98 proof, and it didn't last the entire panel.
Yeah.
It was
I
gone
had none of it, to be clear. I had none of it. I do not drink alcohol. I'm that
don't know
crazy
who,
sober.
I don't know who was drinking. I mean, going down the list, we had
There was like 20 people on that
the end,
panel.
so starting from the main, I still remember everyone that was there. We had
maybe the
Matt
only
Dinneman.
person that remembers besides Kacey, everybody that was there.
The reason I remembered is because I was not tormented the entire time, but I was the inspiration for a lot of erotic different things.
Mhm. Mhm.
That is an amazing sentence all on its own.
Also, my girlfriend is laying on the bed and she just goes, "Oh, okay."
What you don't know is Richie is also TikTok famous for this note.
So going down the line, Matt Dinneman was the host,
Mhm.
and then you had Jez Caggio, Brian J. Norton, Nathan Age,
Brian was hilarious.
Ryan Rimmel, and then R.C. Carr, author Steve Rowland, good old Ezell Rowland,
Mhm.
and then it was Kacey, and then I think it was Marisa.
No,
Or was it Kacey and Melissa? Was
no.
Melissa next to her?
What's his name? From Shadow Alley was sitting next to
Oh,
me.
James Hunter.
James Hunter was sitting next
It was
to
James.
me.
I
And
thought
then
he
it
was further
Marisa.
down. So
Yeah.
it was James Hunter, then Marisa, and then Melissa.
Uh-huh.
Rose Reynolds.
Rose, yeah.
And then Chatfield was the end. Am I missing it? I have a picture of it. I know I do.
It's okay. It was a
hilarious.
moment.
Yeah.
It was definitely a moment to remember. Which brings me to my one of my questions for you, Kacey. What cons were we going to see you this year?
Oh, yeah. So I'm finished with conventions for 25. Starting in 26, I will be at Boscone in Boston, Massachusetts in February. That's kind of my local. I applied to go, and I have not yet reached out to them, but I applied to go to Jordan Con in April. However, I just this weekend found out that my daughter's pilot training graduation is going to be that same weekend, so I have to withdraw my application from Jordan Con. So Geneva, if you're listening, I'm really sorry. You'll hear from me soon. Because I mean, my
I mean that
daughter's
trumps. Yeah,
exactly. I got
as fun as Jordan Con is, that kind of trumps.
right. Yeah. So hopefully they'll welcome me back another year. But yeah, and then I will be at LibertyCon in Chattanooga, Tennessee, in June. And then again, I've applied to be a panelist at Lit RPG Con in Denver in July, so fingers crossed. And then I will be at Dragon Con most likely. Again, I've applied to be an attending pro at Dragon Con in Atlanta, Georgia over Labor Day weekend. And right now, that's all that's on the schedule. So we'll see.
Yeah, sounds good.
Yeah.
That's a pretty full con schedule. I think you might have the fullest con schedule of anybody I've interviewed so far. So.
Well,
What happens when you're a genre?
It does.
Yeah.
Well, and one of the things about my career is like you know, you asked me, is there anything else that you'd like people to know? And I was thinking about that, and I was like, honestly, every single, bar none, every single opportunity that I have ever had in my writing career, I can trace directly back to my attendance at a fan convention, at a science fiction fan convention.
Yeah.
Not because I went there like, shoving my manuscript into it at people, but
Just
simply because of the
talking.
networking.
Mhm.
Right. The making connections, the, talking to people, finding out what they're into, learning things from people, things like that. So yeah, I like cons.
Yeah. It's
Cons
incredible
love you.
the connections you can make. Yeah, with fans and just
Yeah,
professionals and all over the
yeah,
place. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Well,
Well,
real quick at Dragon Con, because I got there on Saturday, as I'm walking
Hmm.
up, the first people I see are obviously you, Marisa, and Melissa. As you guys are coming down from the parade, I'm going up to the west, and so we just crossed paths. I
Uh-huh.
was like,
Yeah, yeah,
so
yeah,
yeah.
I had to talk about that for a second because that's a little fun.
That's one of the things
absolutely.
I love about Dragon Con is, you get to see your friends. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, so where do we find you? Facebook, Patreon? What's the best place to find out what's next?
So the best place to start is probably my website. It's www.kaceyezell.net or .com. Either one works. Once you're there, you can sign up to be a member of my fan community called the Dragon's Horde. Basic membership's totally free. You get like a weekly newsletter, although I kind of spaced it this week because I'm on the road. But you get a weekly newsletter from me telling you about like what's going on, where I'm going to be, new releases, what my friends have coming out, stuff like that. And then if you are so inclined to read some extra scenes, some of which may or may not be spicy,
In the
or
Allspice category? Yeah.
right, or really the real draw is I put my the raw draft chapters of my works in progress. I put those up early for my paid supporters
Yeah.
on my website. So if that's something that interests you, you can do that from my website. I also have all my socials linked there. I'm on TikTok. I'm on Instagram, Facebook, X. I have a YouTube channel. And I have a YouTube channel, Kacey Ezell Writer Life, but then I also have, with Melissa and Marisa, we have the Feral Ladies channel, which I'm actually about to go live for Feral Ladies on in about 25 minutes. So if you guys aren't
It's a
doing
full night.
anything,
Yeah.
come on
Hop
over
over
and
to
hang
Feral
out with
Ladies.
us.
Yeah.
It's going to be silly. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, that's pretty much it. So that's where you
Okay.
can find
Yeah.
me.
That's
And
awesome.
just reach out. I love chatting with people. DM me, whatever. I'll
Yeah.
answer. So as
Yeah.
long as you're not weird, right? Like if you're creepy, don't DM me on TikTok because there's so many like, hi, how are you? Can I send you $5,000? It's like, bro, if I thought you were gonna, you know,
Money
but
Yeah.
first.
yeah. DM me on Instagram or Facebook or X.
Yeah.
I'll be happy to answer. Richie isn't allowed to DM anyone.
That's
That's
true.
fair.
Richie is not allowed to DM anyone.
Okay, to be fair, I did DM Kacey like immediately after finishing Shadow Card Guardian. I'm like, hey, are you gonna be at Lit RPG Con? Because I need this book.
Because we need to. Yeah.
And I
Casey
didn't get
looked
a
at that
copy.
DM and was like,
But
is this spam?
I did get a copy of Mage Light, so I'm not
Yeah.
complaining.
Does look good.
I'm so
It's
glad you
very
liked it.
good.
I'm so glad
So,
you liked it.
couple last questions. We've got our mainstay. If you were going to add a book to Pop Pop's TBR, what would it be?
Well, obviously it would be Mage Light.
Yeah.
Come read my book. But if it was a book not by me, God, I have to choose one. Can
Yeah.
I give you a top three? Can I give you a
Sure.
top three?
Yes.
three.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. My top three would be Rise from Ruin by Melissa Olthoff.
That's on my
So
shelf, too.
freaking good. Not just because these are my best friends, but like legitimately, this book, I became a pilot because I wanted to be a dragon writer. This book by Melissa Olthoff is going to inspire an entire new generation of aviators. Mark my words.
Yeah.
So, Rise from Ruin by Melissa Olthoff, A Plague of Magic by Marisa Wolf. Also, my best friend. Also, not relevant to the reason I love this book.
Yeah.
A Plague of Magic is like classic, kind of gritty, low fantasy. If you liked Jimmy the Hand in the Rift Wars saga, you're gonna love Seema from A Plague of Magic. So
Yeah.
good. And the third one would be no, what's Time Marked Warlock by Shami Stovall.
Time Marked is always a must on my
Freaking
list.
Yeah.
amazing.
It's a class.
Freaking
Yeah.
amazing. I love noir, and this is such an amazing noir time loop adventure, but it's like wholesome at the same time. I loved it.
And if
Loved
it
it, loved
says
it, loved it.
anything, I have 3 of the 4 that you mentioned on my
Yeah.
shelf.
Yeah.
And book 3 in the Time Marked Warlock series just came out like yesterday. So
Yeah.
Book 4
Check
did.
it out.
Book 3's been out for a while.
sorry, book 4. Book 4 just came out. Yeah. Oh my God. So good. So good.
So speaking of coming out, what is your next book that's coming out or
Oh, I thought you were
audiobook?
gonna ask. That's not what I thought you were gonna ask.
This was
Well, you
about
know.
to take a whole different turn. Hold on.
Then.
Here's your chat stats exclusive.
No, I am very monogamously happy with my very sexy husband.
Well, if you don't know, I am gay, so there, we got a coming out moment.
Hooray! No, what books do I have coming out next? Okay, so
If we're gonna do that from now on, it's gonna be the coming out section of the podcast. Like,
Hey,
I
I'm
think this
bisexual,
works for my
so, like, at
brand,
this
Richie.
point.
100%.
so what's funny about that is that literally it has become a thing, a part of our brand on Feral Ladies, that at least once during the show, and I'm gonna do it tonight at the live.
Mhm.
You'll have to come see when it happens, but at least once during the show, I just casually tell everyone, like, yeah, I really enjoy having sex with my husband. Like the internet needs to know that.
Yeah, yeah.
But every time I do it,
Not only that, but she told an entire lobby.
I did, and that's
Like,
why
a
it was
packed
a full ballroom. And that's why our picture was on TikTok, and why my daughter DM'd me horrified. Why are my parents kissing
Why?
on my TikTok?
Yeah. Okay. It's all
This was
all
also
coming
the first
together.
time I met
It's
her
all coming
husband
together.
as well.
Yeah. Well, what can I say? He's hot. Um, my next book release will probably be and I can't reveal the title because I don't think that it is fully set in stone yet, but it will probably be the next 4-HU book, and that will be a co-write with Kevin Eikenberry and David Shadoid. So that'll be probably sometime before the end of the year. But my next solo release, I do know when it is. It will be the first Tuesday in April, and it is Blood on the Sand, and it is book 2 in the Mage Light series. So, and I can't wait either. I got the cover right before DragonCon, and you guys, this cover, oh my gosh.
That's awesome.
Yeah, Blood on the Sand. Blood on the Sand.
Blood on the sand. Apparently, I
Yeah.
can't.
I think I misspoke. I think I said it wrong. But yeah, it's the same artist, Sam Kennedy, that did the cover for Mage Light, and it's so good.
Yeah, I mean, it's a
So
great
good.
cover. Yeah, I
Thank
can't wait
you.
to see it.
He
Yeah.
really, one of the things I love about that cover so much, I know you guys are like, we need to stop, and I just keep talking, and I apologize, but you know what you're getting. One of the things I love about the Mage Light cover so much is that he has Sam did such a good job. Like, he understood the whole game connection piece of it, and so those figures, they kind of look like unpainted or half painted minis. Like, they're sort of metallic looking, and it's just like, I saw it, and I didn't specifically ask for that. He kind of came to that on his own as the artist, and I was just like, holy smokes, this could not be more perfect.
Yeah, it looks good, and it kind of it really emphasizes the game adjacent. It's the party coming together. It's almost like you're in the video game, like choosing it's very cool.
Yep. Yeah. Sam Kennedy, he's a freaking genius, man.
Yeah,
freaking
love it.
Genius. So.
All right, well, thanks for joining me, everybody.
Thank you for having
me. Yeah, this has been great conversation, Kacey, and I've got you penciled in on the calendar in April.
Okay, that sounds
for
great.
the folks watching, if you want to catch me next for my next author's corner, I've got Katie Hanna on the 25th.
I love her.
Yeah, so next week on the 25th. I think it's
That's
Tuesday.
exciting.
Yeah, so it should be good. We're going to be talking about Library System Reset, book 5. And yeah, she's
great.
I need the next book in that series. The ending of that book just
is it like an I need it kind of situation?
Oh my gosh, yes. I'm like, I still can't believe she did what she did, and you're gonna get all of the facial expressions out of me next
That's amazing.
next session. So all right, thanks for joining, everybody. Have a good rest of your night.
It was good to see you guys.